I am struggling to see contemporary films with British Asian actors that just tell human stories that are relevant to them.
What do you do?
VFX.
What's that, like coding?
Seen Avatar?
Yeah.
You know the blue things? They're not real. They're fake.
Cool story, bro.
Hi all, it's Sailesh Ram, AsianCultureVulture.com. How are you doing? Thanks for joining me. Be talking to the British director Haider Zafar about his first feature film called Before Nikkah. This is about two Muslim singletons going on a date. It ends up being a long date. It's a romantic comedy. It's going on release in the UK right now. Let's go and find out more.
How old?
31.
31. Does he come with a donor card?
Haider, welcome to AsianCultureVulture.com. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's great. Great to have you. Can you tell us how you became the director of Before Nikkah?
Of course, I was having dinner with my friend Marcus, who's the screenwriter and co-producer, and he said to me, "Do you remember that idea that you had about a guy and a girl meeting at Euston Station? What happened to that?" And I said, "Oh yeah, Before Nikkah. Um, well, nothing's happened with it yet, so we need to get a script." And off he went. 48 hours later, writes the script,
Wow.
sends it to me.
Is he a
Uh,
professional writer? I mean, were you guys writing? Are you like filmmakers? What's your background? How did you come to
cool.
be making a film?
So Marcus and I met many, many years ago, maybe sort of 2006, and he was doing a short film screening, and I went along to support, have a watch, and then we just connected from that moment. And we started making short films. He was always writing, I think, since a teenager, I assume, and we just made short after short after short together. And then I would say in the last sort of decade, we started working on independent features. This is sort of my first solo debut feature, I would say.
Before you got behind the camera and they were in front of it, did you get a chance to rehearse or talk to the Sasha and Aakash Shukal about the film?
I wouldn't say we had a long rehearsal process. And in terms of prep, the idea was, what location do we need? What location can we access? And then we went for it. Honestly, we just turned up and we shot a movie. That's kind of how it was, run and gun style.
There's a lot of handheld, kind of tracking
Well,
shots and all that. What was the hardest part of the production for you?
that was pretty tough. There are some sequences where we don't cut. We just let the two actors do their magic, and the camera's just we're still going backwards. Yeah, that was pretty tough.
And all of this looked like it was on in real locations, it's London as we find it. And was that important for you to have those kind of some landmark
Massively.
in the film?
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to show London in a sort of true way, but without going to Big Ben, for example. There's no Big Ben in the movie. We just wanted it to be a little bit different, yet give you some of the usual London as well.
Why do you think there aren't as many films like yours around? It's about the British Asian experience, within the frame of obviously your Muslim background and whatever. Is that an important part of who you are, or is it just you want to make films? This was the subject. This is your kind of background, and it's not more complicated than that.
Do you know, I am struggling to see contemporary films with British Asian actors that just tell human stories that are relevant to them. And I'll be honest, I think personally the dating scene is an absolute mess right now. That it's so difficult that people are swiping left, people are swiping right, but they're not actually getting anywhere. And I just felt that here is an opportunity to, and this is not like necessarily a forced or an arranged marriage per se, but what it was an introduction by the aunty of the characters.
She is pretty.
Okay.
And they're like, yeah, why not? Like, I got nothing better to do on a lazy Sunday. So they agreed to meet. I don't necessarily want it to be coming across as like this is not necessarily a Muslim film. This is just they happen to be Muslims, and they are still discussing very, very relevant conversations to anybody.
This whole thing with your ex is salvageable. We're gonna voice note her right now.
Hey, Haji. Issy, Issam.
What was that?
Bye.
I don't think you need to know anything about Islam or anything really. You could just watch it as any kind of romantic type comedy. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
maybe as a rom-com.
I think so. I mean, initially I was apprehensive at calling it a rom-com, but with some of the laughter from the audience, I would say that why not? Yeah.
No, I think it deserves that description. Were you very influenced by the Richard Linklater film Before Sunrise?
That was a massive inspiration, and I'm hoping that this homage or love letter can be seen in the film to anybody that loves those films. Absolutely.
Do you think in a few years' time you might be revisiting the
I
story?
would love to do this. I think there is a story to be had. Funding would be needed more so for the second one because it requires a little international travel, let's just say. But we would absolutely love to do it. 100%.
But let's talk about the funding, because that's often the hardest thing for many people, to raise the money to make a film. So tell us about how it was for you.
We did it in-house. We used our own resources. There was a lot of, I don't want to say beg, borrow and steal, but there was a lot of beg and borrow, but there was no stealing.
No.
And it is a very modest budget, though, without sort of disclosing it.
Sure.
It is definitely incredibly modest, I would say. Yeah.
So what about your future?
I'm hoping that Marcus and I are about to make another one, sort of him directing, me shooting it. And then at some point, of course, I'd like to get back into the directing seat. Nothing quite on the cards yet, but there is ideas are percolating. Absolutely.
And how close is the lead character to yourself? Is there, or to Marcus? Is there an autobiographical element to it?
Marcus was saying that it is perhaps a little closer to him in certain aspects, but then Aakash brought this new magic to you. The thing is, if Aakash came across as an absolute numpty all the way through, no one's going to like him, and he had to have some level of likability at some point. Otherwise, there's no progression as the character. So that definitely was brought out by Aakash himself, and he did a great job.
What piece of advice would you give to somebody who's about to embark on making their first feature? You've done a lot of shorts, so that process from moving to shorts to feature, what was the biggest transitional challenge of that?
Whether your film looks good or bad is kind of irrelevant, and I'll tell you why, because the bottom line is your story, your characters, and you could have it somewhat documentary-esque, but if people are engaging with your performers, actors or real people, whatever you're doing, that's the most important thing. But ultimately, what I would say is just get out there and do it. There's nothing else. You just go out there and do it.
Well, I think you're a perfect example of that, and we wish you all the best for the future and many productions and many screenings, I should say, not just here but abroad. And so, yeah, thank you very much for your time, Haider Zafar.
Appreciate it, Sailesh. Thank you so much. Cheers.
The reigning champion, Sara!